I think this is going to be the death of the ACA, but it's also going to be the death of some Americans who don't go get screenings, who don't get diagnosed early enough in order to get treatment, who go in and instead of being stage 1 cancer are going to be stage 4 cancer. And we're going to hear horrible stories because Americans are going to choose to drop health insurance that they cannot afford.
Ana Navarro appeared on Abby Phillips' CNN show, though this episode featured Sarah Seidner filling in to take on CNN's regular MAGA provocateur, Scott Jennings, during a sharp panel debate centered on the Democrats' healthcare plans and the Republicans' ongoing lack of a real alternative. The panel also included James Clyburn, Brianna Lyman, another outspoken MAGA commentator, and Dylan Douglas, all adding their own angles to the discussion. I want to break down what happened in that exchange and share my own thoughts on the conversation, so let's dive into it together.
We're going to start with you, Brianna, because you didn't get a chance to jump in. And I guess one of the big questions is because Republicans have, as Scott Jennings right here at the table, have complained about Obamacare ad nauseum. There are problems with it. Mm-hmm. What is the plan that Republicans have? What is the robust health care plan that Republicans are proposing?
Well, if I was a Republican in office, I would probably propose repealing Obamacare, given how expensive it's gotten for the American people. But this is a conversation that could have been happening over the past few weeks had Democrats voted on the clean CR in September to kind of hash out these details. I want to go back to something Dylan and Anna said. Dylan, you mentioned that Democrats are the party of humanity. Look, they were so humane that they were willing to let federal employees go without a paycheck and Americans go without SNAP benefits. That being said, as horrible as the shutdown has been for the average American who is a federal employee or who relies on government programs, I don't think it was politically toxic to Democrats. And that's probably because Democrats know exactly what they're doing. To Scott's point, this was an election benefit. Back in March, NBC came out with a poll. It found that Democratic base were really upset with the leadership. They said, you're not doing enough to fight back against Donald Trump. Dylan, I think you alluded to this. And one of the things that a poll found is that a lot of the Democratic base would be happy if the government was to shut down because it meant Democrats were fighting Donald Trump and the GOP. So Democrats played their cards right in September. They said an election's happening in a month and a half. We're going to keep the government shut down. They shellacked Republicans last week. It worked in their benefit. And I don't think there is a political downside to what Democrats have done. And now they've just wasted weeks where Americans are now finally hopefully going to get all the back pay they've been waiting on.
What about the health care? I'm going to ask you, because you're in touch with your Republican friends. What is the plan that Republicans are putting forward? Because you do hear over and over and over again that Obamacare is terrible. You hear it every single time from Republicans. This is a mess. Why do subsidies need to exist? But I have yet to hear a robust plan from Republicans.
Well, generally, they want more free market choices. They want people to feel like that their insurance actually is usable. Right now, premiums are really high. Deductibles are really high. I mean, I don't know about you all, but I know tons of people who have insurance that would tell you, it doesn't even feel like I have insurance at all. I pay. Look, I have a small business back in Kentucky. Every year I get a letter from the people that we get our insurance from. Your premiums that you pay for your employees are going up, 10, 15, 20%. I can tell you this, the insurance benefits never get better. And the employees that I have would tell you, it doesn't ever feel like they're, any better off because of it. We pay more, but the health outcomes and the insurance benefits that they get aren't any better. In fact, sometimes they're worse. And so it just feels broken, and it feels like you don't really have any choices. To me,
but you don't have choices because Republicans have not shown a robust plan. I hear the diagnosis of the problems, but where is the legislation, the full legislation that you can say, hey, we're going to replace this. This is our plan. Obamacare is over here. We don't want this.
I'm not sure Republicans are going to be for a government-run or government-mandated system. What they're going to be for is free market choices, giving people more choices that would probably drive down costs and put them in more direct touch with their own health care. Right now, they're in touch with insurance companies, which don't do anything.
But you know what, Scott, there's a lot of things in Obamacare, there's a lot of things in the ACA that Americans like, whether they are Republicans or Democrats or anything in between. The idea that you can't get kicked out of health care because of a pre-existing condition, the idea that there's no caps, all of these things are things that we've all benefited from, particularly the neediest amongst us. Look, I think this issue is not going to go away. And we're going to be talking about this because we're going to hear horrible stories. Mm-hmm. People are not going to be able to afford their insurance. I don't think even with subsidies, they're going to be able to afford the premiums that are hiking up 100, 200, 300%.
Wasn't Obamacare supposed to fix that?
When people, no, well, not without the universal. I mean, there's
Affordable Care Act.
Yeah,
Affordable was the first word.
The Republicans have been chipping away at the ACA, and I think this is going to be the death of the ACA, but it's also going to be the death of some Americans who don't go get screenings, who don't get diagnosed early enough in order to get treatment, who go in and instead of being stage 1 cancer are going to be stage 4 cancer. And we're going to hear horrible stories because Americans are going to choose to drop health insurance that they cannot afford. And we as a country have got to figure this issue out.
Ana Navarro continues to be someone I respect deeply because she speaks with genuine concern for people in a way MAGA personalities rarely do, and unlike the commentators who show up just to score political points, she brings empathy into every conversation, which is why her perspective stands out to me. And interestingly, this was one of those unusual moments where I actually found myself agreeing with a small part of what Scott Jennings said about how many Americans feel like their health insurance barely protects them, something I relate to personally because being self-employed means relying on an ACA plan that charges a massive monthly premium along with a painfully high deductible that makes the whole thing feel almost useless, yet going without insurance isn't an option when one unexpected emergency could wipe someone out. But what frustrates me is how Republicans keep pretending the free market will solve everything when I lived through the pre-Obamacare days and remember how bad private insurance used to be. From denying people with pre-existing conditions to putting lifetime caps on coverage, and while the ACA was once better, years of Republican attacks have weakened it, which is why I believe Democrats should finally turn the tables and tell Republicans to produce a real healthcare plan themselves after 15 years of avoiding it, and if they still fail, then Democrats should be prepared to run boldly on Medicare for all, especially since Republicans like Scott Jennings and even Donald Trump are now floating ideas about cutting out insurance companies altogether, a concept that ironically mirrors Medicare for all, but despite their talk, we all know they won't follow through, and sadly, I'm not convinced enough Democrats will fight for that vision either. The truth is that a pure free market healthcare system leaves people behind, because once someone hits their coverage limits they're effectively on their own, and anyone living with a pre-existing condition is often shut out entirely, which is why this debate isn't theoretical for me. I think about a close friend of mine who came into this world with a hole in her heart and spent her entire adult life being rejected by insurance companies until Obamacare finally gave her a chance to access coverage like everyone else, and the thought of rolling back those protections terrifies me, because without them she, along with countless others, would once again be left uninsured in a system that decides who deserves care based on profit instead of basic human dignity.
About Donald Trump is not an outsider anymore. He's been in government a very long period of time. And then to your point about the SNAP's benefit, about Democrats being the party of humility, a government shutdown is an ugly business. Two wrongs don't make a right. Donald Trump was the one that refused that the rainy day fund that SNAP had.
No, Democrats refused to open the government.
No, they refused. There was a rainy day fund in place for that very reason of a possible government shutdown. Two courts ruled against it. He has to do it. He still may not comply. Who knows? So don't say that's a Republican talking
Democrats
point.
voted to keep the government shut down.
Obamacare, there's issues with it, but if you break it, you bought it. We can fix it within the system, or we can do something else. Your point about making it privatized, there's a lot of private healthcare insurance out there. None of it is affordable.
But
and if you think of getting rid of an affordable option would make it more so.
You have seen vote after vote after vote to repeal Obamacare. And the question is to replace it with what?
Nothing, a concept.
Correct.
We're still hearing it. When two courts said to Trump, feed these children, he has appealed that.
Why can't those
Why
two
won't he
judges
feed the children?
Why won't Democrats feed the children? Why don't we have two judges say to Democrats, you must vote to open the government because kids are hungry?
Wait, here's the thing.
Do two unelected judges have that authority?
Just answer the question. You can answer the question with your question all you want to, but the fact of the matter is,
an unelected judge probably does not have the authority to tell the executive branch what to do.
There are three different branches of government.
This is my question. They can and then they did. And SNAP's can work without.
Do you believe as a member of Congress, a judge can compel the executive to spend money that you haven't appropriated?
Yes, I do.
Oh.
Yes, I do.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought we didn't want kings.
Nobody
Maybe we need king for a day. What do we need? I mean, that is literally a king spending money that is not appropriated.
The judge is not a king.
No, you're turning the president into one if he can spend without appropriation.
Well, now, if you got a rainy day fund, it was appropriated at one time. The fund didn't come out of the air. The money is sitting there. Now, they didn't appropriate it yesterday or the day before, but the money was appropriated last year sometime, and the rainy day fund was there for this purpose.
Who appropriated the $40 billion for Argentina?
My view is, look, you guys have been railing against Trump being authoritarian, having too much power, too much executive power. And at the same time, Democrats have been arguing that he should go out and spend money that has not been appropriated
by Congress. It's $3 billion that's in a rainy day fund.
Where did the rainy day fund come from?
Was it specifically for this purpose?
Yes, correct. It was three. I know for a fact it was $3 billion that's appropriated through snaps, specifically for either disaster relief situations or government shutdown. Trump said he didn't want to spend the money. People are going hungry because of it.
What really strikes me is how Scott Jennings twists himself into knots to avoid the core point Anna Navarro raised about our national priorities. Because somehow we can scrape together billions for foreign governments and pour money into lavish renovations and endless security forces. Yet we're told we can't find the funds to ensure that women and children in our own country simply have enough to eat. And it feels especially cruel watching wealthy pundits flash luxury watches while Trump throws Gatsby-style celebrations, all while ordinary families struggle to put food on the table. So it makes me wonder what kind of nation we claim to be if we don't even reserve a basic fraction of our resources to protect the most vulnerable among us. And that's why I'm asking you whether you truly agree with Jennings that the ACA should be scrapped. Because yes, it has flaws. And I'd far prefer a single-payer system or at least the option to buy into Medicare, something simple and humane, but abandoning it entirely and returning to the broken free market system we had before would push countless people back into crisis, which is exactly why voices like Ana Navarro insist we cannot go backward. So tell me where you stand on all of this in the comments, and I'll catch you in the next video.